dealers were using, the phase 1 through 4 was sort of more using the tri-party. There was then a question of, well, how do we know that what has been allocated, well, one, what has been allocated, and two, what has been, if what has been allocated, was it actually, what are we doing to validate that that actually was sufficient, met the eligibility criteria, didn't break concentration limits, and didn't break any wrong way risk rules. And there was an internal audit requirement where firms needed to be able to know what was allocated and what were they valid. And that was something which hadn't really come up previously. Firms are used to checking things on their margin calls because you're doing it pledge by pledge or movement by movement, but tri-party kind of brought something new into there. And I think what we found was that people, there are a few challenges there. One, how do you get those tri-party allocations, bringing them back into their systems? And two, how do they then do those validations? And in many cases, they weren't necessarily recording what the eligibility concentration rules were in their collateral systems, or the collateral systems didn't have the complexity to be able to validate. So there was a big sort of question mark there as to how are those checks happening. I think we saw the case where, okay, maybe as a minimum, you're at least working out how to bring back the allocations into your collateral systems, but that might be that you just know what was allocated,
That's
but you
what I
have
was
to
gonna
manually check.
I was gonna say, that's like, so and how does anybody fill those gaps, right? They fill them manually, right? You bring it back and then you have to validate it manually. But so before you go any further, Laura, let me put up that second poll question and let's see how people are doing. Let's see how people are doing. Like, what approach have they taken with respect to the validation, right? So the second poll question, how do you evidence or anticipate evidencing, if you're phase 6, compliance with those compliance with those collateral validation requirements under UMR? So we can put up the voting now.
I'm afraid something just went a bit bizarrely wrong and it didn't let me launch the poll. I apologize. That's not helpful, I know. But
right.
So is technology, how we love it.
All right, so
I apologize.
So let's go to the
let me try and recreate it offline and carry on, and we'll try and bring it back later. How's that?
Okay. All right. Yeah, that'd be great. It would be good to get that poll question in if we can. All right. So no worries. We'll march forward. So a few months back, Acadia did a survey of phase 1 through 5 firms that were moving regulatory initial margin. And then it was focused on collateral validation, and the results were interesting to say the least, right? So some 69% of respondents reported that they have or they anticipate having changes with their collateral validation processes, largely being, and some common themes quickly emerged, right? Really issues around lots of manual steps, right? Which coincides with not really scalable, right? And not timely, and frankly not compliant, right? So these were some of the challenges that we faced. So Richard, I guess I would say that these are probably representative of what folks had to deal with when they were when they got to the end of their collateral, their compliance project, and sat down and figured out, okay, now I got to make sure I'm not breaching any of these regulations, and then, oh, I have a gap here, or I have to fill it manually, right? That's pretty.
Yeah, I think that's what we saw. Is like, so how are you validating that you are compliant in these areas? And then, there was sort of a rush to try to answer those questions. And I think one of the things we found, I think with phase 5, was that when it came to being able to get those allocations out, there was such a focus on just trying to get people, the pledgers set up with the account set up to be able to operate the system, to be able to test, to be able to test getting those allocations back. There was sort of a deprioritization there. Right? Yeah, it was harder to kind of get that focus to be able to set up those processes to be able to bring in the data, and then it was the question of, well, can we even what can we do when we do get that data, and sort of process from there.